please put your hands together for Sven Friedrich, who will tell us something about death.
Good morning, folks. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Sven Friedrich. I'm a funeral director. We have a funeral home in Hanover. So it's basically a family business that exists more than 80 years. And today I'm here to talk about disruption in funeral culture. So for most of you people, death is a taboo. So the last 50 years in Germany, there has virtually been no innovation in funeral business. So basically what my friends think what I do is this one. This one is an old advertising from the 1890s from a funeral home in Germany. And virtually since then, nothing has changed. This one, 1890s. This one is from the 1960s. You see, no change. And this one from the 1980s. So basically, a funeral director is a man with a black suit. He's sitting in his funeral home, waiting for people to die. My friends always ask me, Sven, do you feel happy if someone dies? And I mean, it's a very good question. So if no one died, I wouldn't have a business. But no, I'm not happy about that. So you said that would be a sad topic. I would disagree. That mustn't be sad. So that exists. The question is, how do we speak about it? Do we accept death, or do we taboo it? And yeah, what these advertisings show is the tabooization of death. So funeral homes earn money with death, but they don't show it. And many funeral homes call themselves Bestattungsinstitut instead of Bestattungsunternehmen, because they don't want to show that they earn money with that. So the next example here. May any one of you guess from which year this advertising might be? 2010. Any suggestions? This one is from 2018. Actually, I cheated a little bit, so it was a screenshot of a homepage. But you see, it's so conservative. People are showing off the coffins. So the coffin had a special role in the 1890s, 1880s. You had to show off. The more money you spent, the more people thought you loved your deceased. In these days, we're talking about postmaterialism. We have 80% cremations, and people do not care about coffins anymore. And this will be a challenging point for the funeral homes in Germany. So we are focusing Generation X and Generation Y, because these generations will have to bury their parents very soon. So it's very logic that members of Generation X and Generation Y don't like to get into a funeral home with a man in a black suit, wishing them, speaking their condolences and talking them into buying an expensive coffin. So that's the same thing on a cemetery. Between the 1940s and the 1960s, that's how a cemetery looked in Germany. This one, between the 1970s and the 1990s, nothing changed. So the Social Security in Germany paid like a bonus, a Sterbegeld, for the funding of a funeral. And that's why many people spent a lot of money, and they didn't care. And so all the funeral directors were happy, because people had like an unlimited budget for the funeral, and spent everything for standardized products. And yeah, gravestones, and for the funeral directors. And this one, cemetery in Germany, 2004, 2005. It looks all the same. Nothing changed. This one is an obituary from the 1890s, like on a paper, in a newspaper. Very old school. And this one is the same from 2019. Nothing changed. So, for the second part of my presentation, I chose the title, Anything Goes. And now I would like to show you some new approaches into funeral culture 2.0, as I call it. And anything goes comes from my friends from the United States. So they don't have the German Angst, they don't have the Scheuklappen that we Germans have, because we Germans are very afraid of the topic. We don't like to talk about death. But for my business, there's only one option, and we call it attack. So we need to discuss death without German Angst. So this one is an option. DJ Pierre. This one is an obituary 2.0. DJ Pierre was a DJ in Germany, and his best friend was a cartoonist. He made like techno cartoons, and so he drew a cartoon for him. I play my next gig in another dimension. Pay close attention. And this thing was put on Facebook. So that's what I call disruption. Or this one, actually they published it in a newspaper. This one is the rocket. Any one of you know the Fusion Festival? The rocket is the logo of the Fusion Festival. Moritz always went to the Fusion Festival, and they didn't say like born and died. They just counted the days that Moritz was on this earth. But you have to be brave to try these new approaches. And that's where I see myself, where I see my company. So we don't see ourselves as a hardware seller, as a coffin seller. We see ourselves as a moderator in that process. So some years ago, I've been to Las Vegas. I visited a Jewish lesbian funeral home. And I really love their approach, because they were so open-minded. They didn't have any fear that the Jewish community did their gatherings in the location of that funeral home. So their approach is, in Germany, normally the coffins are ultra expensive because you always hide your costs in the coffin. And in the United States, they have like laws that you aren't obliged to buy the coffin at a funeral home. So basically, they hand you over the FAQs as soon as you enter the funeral home, and they say, hey, you don't need to buy the coffin. And you could order the coffin from Amazon via Overnight Express, or you could go to Walmart with your pickup. And so basically, the cheapest coffin in that lesbian Jewish funeral home was $20. It was a cardboard box that the guys in the United States use for cremation. We in Germany have a little bit of problem with that, but in my opinion, they're making it right. And the most expensive one was about 20K. So you could choose what you want to do, and they have a service fee. So you pay them $1,500 for their service, and that's where I want to go. I couldn't do this overnight, because all of my loyal customers, and when we are talking about customer relationship management, we don't talk about 10 or 15 years, we talk about generations. So my loyal customers come to us in the third generation. And if I would do this, they would say, hey, is that guy crazy? We would never pay that guy 1,500 euros for his service. So we try to do it step by step. This one is super cool. These are stickers from dyed graffiti artists. Oz was a graffiti artist from Hamburg, and it says not rest in peace, but spray in peace. This one, any one of you knows that advertising, yeah. All my Facebook friends, so every week I get a message, hey Sven, did you saw that? In my opinion, it's older than the internet, but it's very, very interesting. And they even received a complaint of the German Werberat, because they said it would be positive for suicide, but that was the best thing that could happen to them, because after that they didn't spend a dime for marketing. It all went viral. And that's also where I want to go. So in my opinion, you have to give first, and you have to create a positive USP. I mean, my customers don't choose their customer role by themselves, but sure, you can be afraid of death, but my American friends say you can't say funeral without saying fun. So this one. It was a marketing competition of the German Funeral Bestattungsfachverband. It reminds on a last-minute trip up in the Unterwelt, all inclusive. And they made the first prize with that. 2009. It was 10 years ago, but I never saw this one in reality. But what I can show you, this one. This one is reality. So these funeral providers are called low-cost providers or discount providers. They call themselves the Ryanair of funeral business. That doesn't have to be expensive. So my favorite pricing for this would be 666 euros for a cremation, all-inclusive. But for sure, you see those small asterisks. No one walks out there just paying 980 euros. They, as we do, they only cook with water, as we say in German. But I would never ever do this aggressive advertising with pricing because, in my opinion, it's not good for the renommee. So, what I would like to show in the next, this one is a more conservative example. Don't you dare come in black and paint my coffin colorfully. That's me. So I bought myself a single-speed bike, and I offer my customers to go with the bike to the crematory, because cremation is a black box for many of people. People are afraid. So what I do, I explain it to them, and I offer to go there myself. This one was an alternative funeral we did last year. See, we only have 30 seconds. This one was a little bit weird. So I suggested to the people not to buy flowers. So they bought some beers and they threw the empty bottles into the grave. That was like border for me, but in my opinion, I'm a service provider. I'm not there to judge. This one is an open-air crematory in the United States. And this one is the coolest thing. It's a glass-blown sex toy filled with 21 grams of ashes of your loved one. Thank you very much.
Exactly on time. Thank you very much, Sven. You might wonder why we use the microphone. It's not because that we can't speak loudly, but because all of this is recorded, so that's why we use the microphone. Thank you very much, Sven. I think I didn't expect all of the audience to laugh so many times when it's all about death, so thank you for this one. Now it's your time, your chance to ask questions. He won't kill you, haha.
Okay, I'm really bad at talking with microphones. So I wanted to ask you how popular, or if it's even possible in Germany, because I've read a lot about people choosing to make trees out of their loved ones who were cremated, or I'm not really sure how it works, but I wanted to ask you if you've had these cases and if it can be done.
You have time to think?
Yeah, these tree funerals, Ruheforst, Friedwald, it's the next big thing in Germany. So basically, you bury you bury urns in a forest, and we do it a lot. In my opinion, that it's the next big thing. And in my new funeral home, we push this kind of funeral.
Another question? Okay.
I'm not sure if it's true, but I've heard that in Germany, getting a license to actually become a funeral home is limited or is quite difficult. Would you say that this is also a problem when it comes to innovation, disruption in the market? Because I mean, I cannot just start a startup and go in and do all about digital funerals and whatever, right?
Basically, any one of you could become a funeral director. You only have to pay like 20 euros and you walk out and you're a funeral director. And that's the problem in Berlin, in the Berlin market. You have all these low-cost funeral providers. They open up a business, they make the pricing 666 euros. And after 2 years, they close their business down because they miscalculated. But it's a huge problem because they spoil the clients, they spoil the markets. No customer in Berlin would pay full price for a sustainable funeral home, and it's a huge problem. In the United States, it's very limited. You have very strict licensing for funeral directors, and I wish it would be more strict in Germany.
Next time I forbid people sitting in the last row to ask questions.
You said that your customers, your loyal customers, are generations over generations, and I assume that your business is in a very small local area, so restricted to a very small local area. Are there any businesses, especially digital businesses and online businesses in your field, that do not focus on local areas for the customers, but they have customers all over the world because they are digital or they are online?
Yes, the first startups approached the market and made like online funeral like pizza.de or booking.com, and that will become a huge problem because most of the funeral directors, imagine the old man with the black suits, just sitting in the office, don't have no idea of the internet, printing out their emails, and they didn't do anything the last 20 years, and yeah, that's where the startups come in. In the United States or in France, for example, it's no big thing. You have huge chains of funeral directors, businesses. But in Germany, people don't like the idea that it's a big business because it's a very emotional topic.
Further questions? I think we have 2 minutes left, so at 6 minutes we have to cut off. Yeah.
So in the digital area, you have a lot of assets in iTunes or your Facebook account. Does it hit also your customers? Do they talk about this? And how could you handle that someone dies and you want to preserve and download or back up what he has left in the digital area?
You're talking about digitaler Nachlass. It's becoming a topic. The first 2 companies started with that in Berlin, like last year or 2 years ago. In my opinion, it's a little bit early for them because if people are really old, they don't have Facebook accounts, not yet. And if they're younger, or if younger people die, the clients aren't willingly to spend like the 150, 200 euros for that package. So in my opinion, we will need some 5 or 10 years.
One last question. Yeah.
Do you make online funerals streaming to other countries or anywhere?
We would do it, but we've actually never had a question about that. So if somebody would ask, we'd do it. But yeah, in my opinion, in Germany we are not as digital that people may ask this in 2019. So in the United States, for example, they do it like every day, but not in small Hanover.
Muslim funeral. Muslim have to make the funeral just after they die, 1 or 2 days after it. So.
Yeah, Muslim funerals are like just-in-time processes. I mean, basically, every funeral is a just-in-time process, but Muslim funerals especially, yeah. And I love just-in-time. It's very challenging. We don't have any space for errors, so we always have a plan B. And when I read management books, I'd like to read about crew resource management from airline crews because they have a very good error culture and failing culture, open failing culture.
Thank you very much. Yeah.